This is my first video on my page, and I'm basically just going to be telling you what I'm doing, the products I'm using, the type of set she's getting, and things of that nature. So this client booked a short freestyle. She wanted to get duckies, the ducky nail shape. So that's what we did. And I actually do have duck nail tips that I got off of Amazon. If anybody wants the link, I can link them below for you. So right now I'm just gluing the tips on. And when you are gluing tips on for nails, it needs to be sidewall to sidewall. The nail tip needs to match their nail perfectly. It can't be too big or too small because that can cause errors, and we don't need any of that. We need the nail tip to match their nail perfectly and just size it accordingly. And 9 times out of 10, just for a tip, most of the time the pointer finger and the ring finger is always going to be the same size. And the more you do nails, the more you'll pick up on just by looking at a nail bed what size it most likely is, to save you a little bit of time versus going through all the different sizes. You'll be able to look at it and say, okay, this is a size number 5. Let me go ahead and pull out my 5s. Or it's between a 5 and a 6. Let me pull out these. And then clearly here, I just sped up through the process because I went normal speed through the first 3 fingers. So now I'm just going to speed it up because I'm just doing the same thing repeatedly to the other fingers as well. And I am using KDS nail glue. Okay, here what I'm doing is making some people call it a moon cut shape. At the end of the nails, it's a little dip. I think it gives the nails a body and character. Of course, some people want it just straight across, but most of my clients that come to me do want that moon cut sharp look. And here, after I did that, I was just going in with my 180 nail file. And I'm just filing the top of the nails. If you can see, I'm kind of pushing the finger back a little bit and filing it at an angle to even further define what I did with my nail drill, making that shape. Okay, this is the application process. So of course we already prepped the nails. As you can see, I use Mia's Secret nail prep and bond for retention for all of the nail sets that I do. I've never had any issues with this product. I know Young Nails protein bond is also very good as well for retention. And as you can see, I'm just applying that. And if you can notice, when I am putting the nail prep on, the nail bed is getting back somewhat ashy, as you can say. It's almost like I never put anything on. That's how you know that your prep is really, really good, when it goes back ashy in a sort. And then you're going to see me come back in and put in my bond as well, the actual primer itself. And that's what's going to help it stick for retention. So now the actual application process is beginning, and I do a 2B method with my short to medium length nails. My long nails, I do a 3B method. So as you can see here, I just put my first bead on, and I'm just slightly patting it and dragging it down, and I'm molding it to the shape that I created with my nail tips. And I'm using just slight baby strokes. I'm not being too aggressive with the acrylic. I'm letting gravity also do its job as well, holding the nail downward and letting the acrylic fall. While it's falling, I'm taking my brush and making it fall in the way that I want it to go. Because with duck nails, you do have to do application a certain way. It's not a regular square. As you can see, it's clearly flared at the bottom. So you do want to make sure the acrylic is touching all of those areas at the bottom of the tip. And don't do what I do, y'all. You're really not supposed to touch raw acrylic, but I always use my thumb and press down on the tip to get the remaining excess acrylic off. But don't be like me. Be better than me. Use your brush. you're also going to see that I'm constantly swiping my sides. I'm pushing down on it. I'm making sure that that acrylic is molded exactly to the shape that I created. And here, now you're going to see me do my second bead, which is going to be my cuticle bead. You have to be very careful with this. This is really where your liquid to powder ratio is going to come into play. Because if you don't have your liquid to powder ratio down, the acrylic in your application process is going to be super messy, super runny, or it's going to be very, very, very dry, and it's going to be very hard to mold your acrylic. A beginner-friendly monomer that I started off with and I still use till to this day is Young Nails monomer. I truly believe that the cuticle bead is the most important bead, simply because it can also affect your retention if it's not done properly, and you really want to make sure that cuticle bead is 100% flushed. When I say flushed, I mean completely neat, not running over on the side walls, not running over on your client's cuticles. It needs to be directly below the cuticle. It also shouldn't be a gap in between the cuticle and the acrylic. It should be right there. It's so complex, y'all, trying to explain it. You really not gonna understand it unless you do it and you practice it. The more you do it, the better you will get at it. Trust me, I have been there. I have been doing nails for 4 years and I'm just not getting comfortable. I would say maybe 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, to where I am confident in every set that I do, especially with my application. I can do application within 20 minutes on both hands. With short nails, it depends. I could probably do it a little bit quicker, but of course with extra long nails, it's going to be a little longer, maybe 35 minutes, maybe. But I've never spent, in I would say the last 2 years, an hour on acrylic application. I have really mastered my liquid to powder ratio, and I've also experimented with other monomers, and I've yet always just found myself back at Young Nails. She never disappoints, y'all. And Young Nails always does sales online too, which we love. When filing the nails, since I have pretty much mastered my application, there's not much filing that I do have to do. I can say in the beginning of my nail journey, I probably spent more time filing than I did application, simply because my application was rushed or it wasn't molded to that tip like how I previously stated. The cuticles probably weren't flushed. So basically whatever I didn't do in application, I had to fix while filing. But since my application now is up to par, it's almost perfect, I don't really have to spend a lot of time filing. Of course, I do file underneath the nail as you saw previously, and I file on top of it just to make sure it's completely even across the board, but I don't spend very long. And you'll see me tapping the nails, because when I tap the nails, it's a specific sound that it's going to make, and that allows me to know that it's 100% dry before I just go in filing like crazy. And then you're going to see eventually when I'm done filing, I am going to go in and start sealing the cuticle, which also is very crucial as well when it comes to retention. And you also have to be careful with it too, because you don't want to cut your client, because the cuticle area is also just a very sensitive area. Okay, so a lot of beginner nail techs may ask, well, Jalen, how do you exactly seal the cuticle? How do you know that you're sealing the cuticle? So me personally, I don't use a sanding band to seal the cuticle. I use a 5-in-1 drill bit that I actually got off of Amazon, and this smooths out the nail so good. A buffer has nothing on this. It is so good, not to mention, but when I can also seal the cuticle with this, so I can smooth out the nail and clean it up, as well as seal the cuticle. And sealing the cuticle is basically going completely around the cuticle. It's going from side to side. If you need to, you can turn your client's nail kind of sideways so that you can see how close your drill bit is to her cuticle. Because with the 5-in-1 drill bit, it is very, very, very sharp when you first get it. Very sharp. So you have to be very careful because you can easily nip somebody and it hurts really, really bad. And it honestly has the potential to cause them to bleed. And I'm not talking about a drop. They can bleed. So you have to be very mindful of that. Be very gentle. Be very careful. I always try to do people nails like how I would want my nails done. I don't want you yanking on my hands. I don't want you just going crazy around my cuticle, drilling it crazy and it burning me potentially. I always am very gentle with my girls. I am very careful. I ask them, did this hurt? If I feel like I hurt them, I communicate with them throughout the whole process so that, for one, they'll know what I'm doing, and then number two, I know as a nail tech that I'm not injuring them or causing them harm, because some clients don't know how to speak up, which I used to be one of those people. And you always want to make sure a client feels comfortable in your chair to where if something is hurting her, she's able to speak up and tell you. Because sometimes us nail techs will just be going in doing our job and we won't know that we might be being a little bit rough, or we might not being very attentive to the things that's causing them discomfort. So I always like to communicate with my clients, especially if I feel like their hand twitched a little bit or they jerk their hand back. Sometimes people just do that out of reaction and they're not necessarily hurting. Sometimes they just feel the vibration of the drill bit, but I always just still like to ask because I don't want to hurt my girls. So I would recommend y'all doing that when sealing the cuticle. And you'll know when you seal the cuticle because the cuticle area will look so flushed. It'll look very clean and neat. And of course, over time, ask your clients, how long did your nails last? And when they come back to get a fill-in, are any nails lifting? And you'll know just by how their nails last, if they're still on, how your retention is doing. This is the designs portion of the video. I'm not really going to be describing or explaining anything that I'm doing. You can just kind of see it. But of course, if you are a beginner nail tech out there and you do want some tips and tricks on how I learned to do the specific designs that I'm finna display, of course, comment down below. I will be happy to make a video catering to your questions and your concerns. If there's a specific product that I use and you want to know exactly where it's from and I didn't mention it or cover it, let me know in the comments and I will definitely respond back and give you all the information that you need to get you the products. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of the video. Like, comment, and subscribe.